Shut up and sit down.
It's where the big boys play. SICW.
Hello. Thank you for coming to this Weird Read podcast, everybody. I haven't been outside in like 4 days now. Episode number 90 something. I'm going to stop counting here pretty soon. But welcome. You see that there's only Jim and I right now. Bobby's going to be coming in, and then Jim has brought in a rising star in NWA coming in later on today. Nickname of Strictly Business. Gimmick, not nickname, whatever. But also want to say happy birthday to a good friend of ours, Mr. James Beard.
Yes, of course. I reached out to him.
Again,
21, is that what you said?
Yeah, 21 again, right?
I bet you he wishes he was still 21. But yeah, I reached out to him and wished him a happy birthday this morning. So he's taking a laid back day, and when it's your birthday, I guess you can. But let's get to what's happening real quick. We're coming off of the first Monday Night Raw on Netflix, and man, was it kind of crazy. It did make me feel like it was almost an Attitude Era Raw. There was some stuff that we'll get into that kind of made it crazy. For starters, it's the first Raw on Netflix, so they did bring out some stars. So to open the show, it was actually Triple H, and they did this nice movie montage of the wrestling over the decades and where it started from to where it is now, and what crazy stuff is going to happen in the future. But then Triple H, does his iconic line, "Are you ready?" And then all of a sudden you hear the Rock's music come out too, and then the Rock kind of does more of an opening and talks about how Cody Rhodes is been carrying wrestling for the last year, being the champion, and starts going off on thanking a bunch of people, and just going around the crowd, you can see how jam-packed this building was. And
17,000 people.
Yeah, and it was crazy too, because a lot of people sometimes, scalpers get in there and buy a whole bunch of tickets and start to try to sell them for higher amounts, which they kind of did. But there's a bunch of people noticing that there wasn't really any tickets for sale, on the secondary market. So it was definitely, when you bought those tickets, you wanted those tickets. It was a jam-packed house.
Those tickets generated $3 million in gate revenue, which is a record for WWE. So,
it's just telling you how much those tickets were selling for. They were crazy expensive. We talked about this a couple, episodes ago about how much more the tickets are nowadays compared to being able to walk in there for $10 or $12 and get a ticket.
Unless you come to SICW, where we still bring in legends and WWE and NWA wrestlers, and you still can bring your family for pretty decent amount of money.
Right. Well, there was some statistics that was brought to my attention right before we started the podcast, and I'll just throw this out there. It was over 3 hours long, like 3:15, 3:20, somewhere around there. And someone had measured the time of the amount of wrestling compared to backstage segments and interview time and everything. And there was 1 hour and 2 minutes of wrestling. The rest was just interviews and special appearances. And so they definitely got the entertainment down part, down right. Just hopefully, since this is the first one, hopefully next week, they'll bring in more wrestling, because at the end of the day, it's a wrestling show. It's not all about sports entertainment, but, unlike SICW, where ours is a wrestling show, granted, there might be an interview here or there. Really, there isn't no interviews on the live show. The interviews are mainly for the TV tapings the next day. It's just more generated wrestling, but yeah, let's get into it. So the first match probably should have been the closing match. because it definitely this match is what actually brought in like the Attitude Era type of atmosphere. So maybe that's the reason why they started off big. But so it was Roman and Solo going at it for who is the tribal chief. And automatically you knew that the bloodline, whether the new or the old bloodline, was going to interfere in it somehow. And they did. But it was a good back and forth match. I think Roman really paces his matches now, because if you watch his match closely, you can see how he sets the pace. It's not a fast match. He'll do a move and then he'll wait for the crowd to either cheer or boo, and of course they were cheering him last night, because the whole time during the beginning of this match, where they introduced the wrestlers, everyone was saying "fuck you, Solo." And normally that would be bleeped out where you couldn't hear it, but it being on Netflix, it was loud and proud. But
Yeah,
yeah, so
yeah, I mean, ushering in a new era, going back in time, but also towards what is the common culture now, which is more vulgarity, I guess you could say.
well, and I'll throw this in there too, because I hate this. A lot of independent wrestling, a lot of the wrestlers are now using the vulgar language and flipping the bird through every match. If you're a heel, that's how you get heat these days, is you flip off the audience and you cuss at them. Unlike our shows, I hate to compare it, but it's like night and day. SICW through independent wrestling, or even the big stage guys. Our shows try to be family friendly. Every now and then a cuss word might slip. We're freaking human. But
Well,
I give props to Matt Cardona, and I take props away from him, because he's a great independent star. But even he flips the bird to almost everyone, and it's kind of crazy. But
and that's probably one reason why you couldn't just line up to bring him in, because he doesn't
right,
want to be hamstringed, and we don't want him flipping off the little kids that are sitting around the ring.
yeah,
Because if you remember, when you go back, we actually had a guy that Herb brought in from another area, and he did that. He's never been back, and he won't be back.
right. Bobby's joining us. Bobby, we're just going over Monday Night Raw. We're actually talking about the first match, Roman versus Solo. Talking about how the chance was going pretty strong of "fuck you, Solo," through the whole beginning of the match.
I just don't get that, because Solo is the true tribal chief.
Well, not now. He lost.
Oh, he cheated.
Yeah, the Rock put the old wreath on Roman. So
Right.
I hope
yeah,
I hope that there's still a swerve coming. I'm holding hope for it.
Oh, I'm sure they need to do like an old school Survivor Series, and not the War Games version. They need to do an old time Survivor Series, old bloodline versus new bloodline, and get it, not to get it over with, but that should be how they end it.
well,
Just
with the
because
amount of
it's a
people
great
that
storyline, so I don't know how they can stretch it out further than what they have.
I mean, they're going to need to, because as many people just watched this one, 1.6 million worldwide, compared to all of last year, where the average is 1.6 million for the whole year. So,
Yeah, but
I mean,
yes, they do need to carry something along, but you wonder how much they're going to keep this momentum rolling, and how much of it was just high ratings because it was something new.
Something new, very first one.
I saw a lot of posts with that. I'm watching it. Haven't watched it in years. I'm watching it for the first time because it's on Netflix. But are you going to tune into week 2 on Netflix? You're going to tune into week 3.
Here's the thing with Netflix too. They don't really give out ratings, and really, there's no way to give out ratings, because when it's live for us, it's not. I mean, it's still going to be live for someone across the world, but they're not going to be watching it at 3:00 in the morning or 4:00 in the morning. They're going to watch it when they wake up or when they're off during the day or something like that. So it's going to be hard to find out what the ratings were and stuff like that. But kind of want to get through it just because we got a special guest coming on pretty soon. So during that match, of course, the new bloodline interfered, setting up Solo to win. But Jimmy and Sami Zayn came out, got those guys out of the way, and then surprise, Kevin Owens pops in and gives the Stone Cold Stunner to Roman Reigns and starts beating him down. And then Cody Rhodes comes out to save the day. And Cody comes out, gets a hold of Kevin Owens, and then they fight to the back. And then Roman is able to win. Now, it took a couple of his finishers to get the job done, but he did get the job done. And then Good Old Rock came out, and which I thought was going to tease the whole Roman versus Rock at WrestleMania, but they kept it cool, and The Rock showed Roman respect, and he was the one that laid those. I forgot what kind of flour that they call it, but laid that on him. So very good match. Like I said, out the gate, it made me feel like the Attitude Era had come back. What do you say, Bobby?
I gotta say, I guess everybody had jitters that on the Raw on Netflix because nobody was able to hit their finisher and just finish anyone.
That's true.
So I guess everybody had jitters and just couldn't hit them as well.
It took Ray 3 of hers to beat Liv, so.
Oh, you're jumping the gun here. Next, John Cena came out, did his interview or his promo about how, he's on a losing streak and he just hopes to get some wins this year. Throws down about how he probably won't be able to go for a title because he's on such a losing streak and you can't just come back and demand a title shot. Unless, yes. So then he started coming up with, there is some lottery things out there. There's the Elimination Chamber, there's the Royal Rumble. And then he goes, that's what I'll do. I'll win the Royal Rumble. It kind of gave the fans a nice little pop. But we talked about this a couple weeks ago about, this was going to be how John Cena was going to get back into the title. Winning that Royal Rumble and then selecting who he wanted to wrestle. Again, Bobby, we talked about how there was only an hour and 2 minutes of wrestling. The rest of the 3 hours plus was all interviews and backstage segments and stuff like that.
Yeah, the booing and Paul. I felt sorry for Jimmy.
For Jimmy.
Yeah, he was out there with the Hulk when the Hulk was getting booed by everybody.
Oh, Jimmy Hart. Okay. So yeah. So then it was Liv and Rhea, and even being a girls' match, that was a good match. Got some little interference with Dom and Raquel, I think is her name. Definitely a lot of back and forth action. Pretty much against Rhea. But she was able to capitalize on some certain things, and then she became the new women's champion. You guys like that match? Did you see that one?
It wasn't the worst one of the night. It was only the second worst.
Yeah. So the big surprise with her winning is on her way to the back. All of a sudden, you hear the music for the dead man. Yes, the Undertaker came back. He was doing the American Badass version. So he came out with Harley, riding around the ring, and came back and posed with her with the whole fist pump in the air. Kind of everyone was saying it was kind of giving her the rub from the Undertaker. So that was very cool. But also,
I think they're just trying to get her to turn her back to the camera to show her best asset.
well, a lot of people were saying that was actually supposed to be Becky Lynch was supposed to come back last night, and that was her spot. And that something happened where they took her off the card and just kept it as Liv versus Rhea. Now, this is probably the match that I thought was the worst match because I think they did Jey Uso did an Ultimate Warrior type of thing. Ultimate Warrior was always talking about how he would run from the back to the ring, hit the ring post, back and forth, and then by the time it was time for him to wrestle, he was blown up. And I think that's what happened here because Jay comes. Well, first it was Travis Scott. They were introducing a whole bunch of people in the audience, a lot of famous people.
All throughout the night.
Yeah, all throughout the night. But in this spot, they did a few, and then they pointed out that Travis Scott was there. Of course, he's a rapper. He's coming out. He's got a hardcore title with him, a newer version of a hardcore title, too. And then he starts smoking off of his joint. And even the announcers talking about how, he's got that herb with him, or I think someone called it oregano or some sort of fragrance. But
it's on Netflix. Who cares?
Yeah, but you still got to think. Everyone talked about how it's going to be mature audience or rated R now since they're going to Netflix. But then they did this whole thing saying, "Oh no, we're not changing the ratings. We're still family-friendly entertainment." And right out the gate, they weren't bleeping the cuss words when everyone was telling Solo to fuck off. Now you got a rapper joining the mix, and he's smoking, and repeatedly. It wasn't like it was a one puff and you seen the smoke. He was like smoking all his way down to the ring with Jay. Now his song has taken off, so his entrance with the whole yeet thing, that was off the chain. Everyone in the audience was doing it. You had Michael Cole and McAfee on top of the announcer's table, doing it. As a matter of fact, was it? His name is McAfee, right? Am I getting that
Pat
right?
McAfee. Yep.
Yeah, so he's all, talking about how I'm yeeting all over the place. And Michael Cole yells out, "Well, don't yeet on me. I don't have any new clean suits," or something like that. So, they're referencing a whole bunch of sexual stuff, too. So, you got sexual stuff being referenced. You got pot smoking being referenced and cuss words going at it.
Well,
So,
the pot smoking wasn't referenced. It was seen.
Yeah, it was seen. So.
Well, it's kind of like when we start doing our reactions. That's why we're having people pay for it, because and say what we want. You pay for it.
Yeah. But, so Jay had a match with Drew McIntyre, and in theory, Drew's just coming off that match that he had with CM Punk, and that was a badass match. It was a cage match. It was hardcore. They talking about the toolbox that CM Punk used. They were both bloodied. And then you had this, like, the very beginning was kind of decent. But then there was like a dead spot in there. And both athletes were just laying down. And it was like you can even hear the crowd just go silent, like, what the fuck is going on? So it came off a little weird, and then the rest of the match kind of went downhill for me. It was like they rushed it at times, they backed off to catch their breath, and then the win was pretty much a rush job, So
I thought it was bad start to finish.
Yeah, to me, hands down, that was the worst match of the night, and they only had like 4 or 5.
I was texting with a couple of my buddies in a group chat during the show, and I remember texting him during this one. Am I the only one that is bored as hell watching this match?
But in WWE, guys, isn't it the referee's job to help them pace the match, to tell them, hey, you need to get going, hey, we need to slow it down?
Well, they can get suggestions, but they're ultimately not in charge.
Right. That's the only, hey, 5 minutes down, 3 minutes to go, get your ass up, but it's up to the wrestlers to actually do something. I actually, watching the entrance, I was like, you know what? Jey Uso has kind of changed my personal mind. Because when they were a tag team, Jimmy and Jay, I always thought Jimmy was the breakout star. I think he had a better look than Jay. I think Jay's face is not, Jimmy's just got a better look to him, I think. I don't know how to
I think you're
describe
trying to
Jay's
say
face,
you
but
think the other one is more pretty than than one or the other.
technically I do. It might sound weird, but I think Jimmy
No, it's just
looks
the fact
more
one's
like a wrestler
prettier
should.
and people can latch onto that one.
Well, but I was kind of changing my mind. I was like, Jay is really over. He's
You
getting the
slut.
whole crowd to get into his match. Well, not really his match, but the beginning. The whole crowd was going crazy. Like I said, the announcers were on the table doing his little whole yeet thing, and so in the beginning of the match, I was like, damn, Jay has kind of changed my mind on him. But then the match was like horrible. So, my mind
You're
is still not made up.
conflicted.
And did you count how many super kicks and claymores there were, and then finish with the crucifix roll up?
Yeah. That the finish kind of got me there. So, but yeah. So after that match is finally over with, I knew Hogan was in the building because Hogan and Jimmy Hart had announced on their Facebook they were on the plane. They took a picture of them on the plane saying, we'll be there tonight, So I knew Hogan was
And
there.
see, I didn't notice that, but I did message the guys I was messaging with during the show that the Real American Beer logos were in two corners of the ring. It's like, I bet you he shows up tonight.
Yes. So
Well, he sponsored the shit out of it, so.
Before the show started, they had literally inked a deal where WWE is now a minority owner, not a major owner, but a minority owner of All American Beer.
Real American.
So, Real American Beer. So now they have a stake in this product. However,
Real American Beer.
when Hogan came out to cut his promo about how he helped start this business in the 80s and he's been in the business 40 plus years. Throughout the whole promo, the audience was just booing the hell out of Hogan.
Even when he was
bringing
giving
in,
props to the audience, they booed him.
yeah, it's kind of crazy because a lot of people speculated it was done because of they're in a Democratic city and Hogan was clearly out for Donald Trump. But then you had to back off of that too because the Undertaker is a Republican and sponsored Donald Trump. So you really couldn't take that away.
Now, I read a lot of that, but Undertaker also didn't go to Trump's last big rally before the election and speak at it. There's a little bit of a different level of support there.
I also heard a lot of racist stuff about Hogan coming back out and how he never apologized. But every time he got in trouble for the racist remarks that he got caught saying on videotape, he apologized and served his time. They kicked him out of the Hall of Fame for it, and it was years before they brought him back. So
yeah,
I
from
can't
everything I read, the last thing that was, and I don't know what video people are talking about, but it was all from over 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's time to let go. People just want to feel important and they want something to hate. I mean, do I like Hogan as a person? Absolutely not. But I liked him as a wrestler.
I don't like him as a wrestler.
A lot of people were talking about that too, how they can separate Hogan, the wrestler, versus Hogan, the actual person, and they can cheer Hogan, the wrestler, and hate the real man. But it's definitely kind of crazy that Hulk Hogan come out and Jimmy Hart was behind him and he's waving the flag and they just booed him until he walked back. And so it was kind of crazy. I was like, I couldn't believe it. But then again, they were in California, and that is a highly democratic, state.
Well, from what I
Like,
read, he's got like 6 more appearances, so we'll see what happens somewhere else.
Yeah, yeah.
there's only a
Then,
stunning display of a lot of HGH going on, though.
well, that's one thing I said to my wife too. When he came out, you could tell that he was old now. He's got that Ric Flair look to him now. Before, Hogan still was jacked. You could tell he was old, but now he's got the old man walk. And when he lifted his arms up, the bottom of the bicep was gone
All
now.
wrinkly and flappy.
Yeah.
The
So,
biceps still look good. It was the triceps that were all wrinkly and flappy. And
yeah. I just thought they could have given him a better response. And probably any other city, if they would have been in a different city, he probably would have got one of the pops of the night.
yeah,
But he didn't.
Almost right on time.
No, there he is.
There is
Wow,
strictly
there you go.
business.
Special guest of the night is Brandon Barretta.
Who?
We've been kind of keeping tabs on him for most of his career, basically. Brandon, we're talking about we're down to the last match. Did you watch Raw last night?
I did.
You did.
I did, of course.
What did you think of the show?
Overall, I enjoyed it. Not many complaints, I will say.
Yes. So I did too. We did talk about how Jey Uso and his match with McIntyre probably was not the best match. I don't know about how you felt about it, but it definitely kind of lacklustered towards the end there.
They definitely could have done a lot more, in my opinion.
I told them that it was like an Ultimate Warrior match, meaning Ultimate Warrior runs down to the ring. He goes from one post to the next, cheering and running and pumping and all this stuff. And then when he's actually wrestling, he's blown up. And I think that's what happened to Jay.
Oh, yeah, you think Jay was blown?
Well, there was a lot of downtime.
Yeah,
where he was huffing and puffing. And I think
he was
blew
also
himself.
probably huff and puff a lot walking to the ring with Travis Scott. So
no, according to the after show, he did not partake, and Triple H even pointed that out.
I know, but I'm just saying, being around it, inhaling smoke secondhand, And
during the interview last night, Jey Uso actually said where they were standing was all kids. And so he pointed that out. But, Brandon, we had talked a few podcasts back of everyone thought, oh, they're going to Netflix, so this is going to be a change in the rating. It could be rated R or mature audience or something. And then like a couple weeks before, Nick Khan actually came out and said, no, we're still keeping the same rating. It's still going to be family friendly. But even in the first match, the audience was clearly saying, fuck you, Solo. And then they come out smoking pot.
Well, I think that's where, like, Netflix isn't going to censor that stuff. Like, WWE, they're not going to probably put it directly on their product where it's like, yeah, go out there and drop an F-bomb or go out there and call someone a bitch or, whatever like that. But if it happens, Netflix is not going to censor it. And that's where, like, USA was the one, they were the ones censoring that stuff prior to.
Right. And so I'll agree with you. I really enjoy this Raw, and I hope to keep up with the same feel. But when they tell you that, no, they're going to keep it family friendly, and then one of their special guests is smoking a joint around a group of kids, it's not really keeping it family. I mean, my kids are all grown up, so, you got to parent your own kids. But it was definitely, I don't know about being totally family friendly when you got that stuff going on.
I don't know. The
I
most
mean, in my
controversial
mind,
thing you just said, Jim, was you have to parent your own kid. That's not today's society where they expect everybody to do it and the government to do it.
yeah. But I
No,
also
it's
wonder, like, I would almost, I'd put my next SICW envelope on it that Travis Scott didn't ask for permission. You know, bet you it was one of those. What's the? I'm gonna leave this up to you and Bobby. What's the old school thing to say when you're wanting to do something?
Ask for forgiveness, not
Don't know.
permission.
Exactly. I bet you it was one of those situations.
I've never done that.
Yeah.
Okay, so the last match, CM Punk versus Seth Rollins. How did you like it? Anyone, feel free to speak.
If
normal.
God, would that have been a freaking hell of a match if we were getting, Tyler Black versus CM Punk in Ring of Honor? Absolutely. Would that have been a hell of a match if we were getting CM Punk versus Seth Rollins, Shield Rollins, or, 2013 Punk? Absolutely. Do I think they did the best with what they were capable of doing at this point in their careers? Absolutely. So I think they did what they could to stay, I mean, CM Punk just over the past, he's been back in wrestling for 3 or 4 years now, how injury prone he has been. I think they still did some spots that were it's a lot of risk on his end, like that top rope neck breaker, like that's a gnarly bump for both guys. And my initial thought,
buckle bomb too.
That's the next one I was going to talk about was the buckle bomb. I mean, that's what initially retired Sting, before he came back, was the buckle bomb. And I would say I enjoyed the match based off of who Punk and Rollins are current day. But it did leave me thinking like, oh my God, dude, like if we would have got this match 15 years ago, like, God, that would have been, I mean, I just did a podcast on Sunday. It was Rick Ruby's podcast. And one of the matches that I was just like, that had no business being as good as it was Kenny Omega versus Gabe Kidd. Like that match, that was one of those matches I went in with pretty low expectations and came out with like, I was like, oh my God. Like I already knew Gabe Kidd was like, he was doing his thing in New Japan and he's a really good wrestler. But that match had no business being as good as it was. This match, you come in and you already have these high expectations. You already have these like, God, we're getting Punk and Rollins, in 2025. But then you have to kind of lower your expectations because you have to understand both these guys have, Punk's on the tail end of his career. Rollins is in that quote unquote wrestler prime, but he's also been injured so many times with very serious injuries. Right. So is his wrestler prime really his prime? You kind of have to lower your expectations based off of the condition both these guys are in their current state. But I enjoyed it for what it was.
Yeah, so I enjoyed it too. And there was even some spots in it where I don't think, I think they were actually fighting each other. Because there are some spots where you could tell that Rollins wanted to go one way, but Punk didn't want to and went another way. And I almost thought they were going to pull more into their rivalry, their hatred of each other. And I think if they would have pulled more into it, it would have made it a better match.
Yeah.
And I don't even think you would have to be like a professional wrestler to see those spots. I think if they would put more into it of that, I'm going to one-up you. I think everyone already knows, especially with all the interviews and promos that they've been doing, that they don't like each other.
Right.
I think they could have put more of that into it because you know, a lot of people say, you know, whether it be Eric Bischoff, controversy creates cash. You know, realism creates cash. You know, if they would have put more of that into it and made it more where everyone could catch it, you know, I think everyone would have been more into it. Even after the match, they did an interview with one of the announcers, and Punk was saying, you know, I'm 46. 46 is just a number, but you know, I got to lean towards what you're saying too. You know, he's definitely older, and he's definitely been hurt, you know, injured wise a lot within the last few years. So yeah, it probably would have been a better match if we caught it 15 years ago. I mean, Ring of Honor at the time that they were both in it, you know, pretty much it was the elites that we have now, you know, because Daniel Bryan, he was in it, you know, there was Samoa Joe was in it. There was such a class of Ring of Honor wrestlers that, and you know, that's what brought Ring of Honor to the dance. It for a time period, it was WWE, WCW, Ring of Honor, you know. But now, you know, under the AEW umbrella, I don't think it's getting what it was used to, what it deserves, and that could be a Tony Khan thing too, you know, because it might be just his redheaded stepchild. You know, he uses that to kind of promote certain people, and because I really think they should split that off and not let the guys mingle back and forth as much as they do. And kind of create like kind of how I felt like when WWE bought WCW. They could have ran both of those companies separate, and you know, killed it from both sides. And every now and then, you know, do a draft and switch some people over or something to get those dream matches. And I think they should have done that with Ring of Honor, because Ring of Honor definitely had a class, a different style than anything else. But so overall, guys, what'd you think of it?
I felt like it was a slideshow showcase of only the faces winning, and a feel-good moment for the new fans that tuned in. Which again brings you to, is that going to bring people into watching a second week? All the people they brought back.
Well, it's going to bring me back. I'm going to watch it from now on.
I'm going to watch it just because I want to see Penta versus Gable.
Yeah, you know, they teased that just a little bit. They talked about the day it was going to be his debut was last night, but you know,
it seems like
I guess they ran too much promo time and interview time. Like I was telling them, an hour and 2 minutes of wrestling out of a little over 3 hours worth of a show. That's what was timed down to. An hour and 2 minutes of the wrestling. What does Strictly Business think about that? Because Strictly Business is about wrestling, right?
Yeah, but I mean, the faster I can get in and out of the ring, the faster I get paid. So.
Oh.
You know, that's why back to this pro record, I haven't had a match that went over 5 minutes.
But we're saying they could have put another match in there, not extended a match.
Yeah. I will say this with the Penta thing about that, you know, last night being potentially his debut. You know, last week when Nick Aldis was talking about, oh, it's going to be the New Day versus Rey Mysterio in a you know, mystery partner, and everyone's like, oh God, they're going to put another Latino wrestler with Rey Mysterio and make him part of the LWO because every Latino wrestler has to be a part of the LWO. So there was a lot of backlash, you know, on social media and on, you know, from the fan aspect. So that, in my mind, is probably why things were shifted, you know, and they went to just, all right, we'll just, you know, put on a banger of a match with Chad Gable and kind of spotlight Penta in a better way. You know, and plus I don't think Penta would need to be a part of LWO, because if you go back and you watch like Mysterio versus Penta and Lucha Underground, fans are gonna want to see that, dude. Like the fans that haven't seen Penta versus Mysterio and Lucha Underground, like that's what they should be getting. And I think those two guys could still deliver it just based off of how Mysterio's still performing and how he performed in Lucha Underground, it's not much different. And Penta's still very, he's in good health.
Right.
But so I think it was a good move that they didn't debut him last night and do the typical, because that match just got scrapped in general. Like, we were supposed to have that match last night.
Or you could have had the rematch of Penta versus Eno Sky from Lucha Underground.
You said Penta versus who?
Eno Sky.
Yeah, I don't know if WWE would go that.
I don't know.
If I remember correctly, she won with a crossbody off the balcony.
Off the balcony?
Yes.
Dude, Lucha Underground, I'm sorry, but Lucha Underground is underrated.
Oh, yeah.
Like, for what they were doing with what they had, oh my gosh. Some of the matches they put out, yeah, it was that super high spot, but like, again, just on Rick's podcast, I was talking about, I was like, there's crowds that enjoy that stuff. That crowd wanted to see that stuff. And it's still just as impressive how athletically than it is to, I feel wrestle a, Iron Man match where you're showing your cardio.
Well, I think that it's also, people know there's a difference from watching a WWE product to watching a Lucha Underground. It's kind of like an ECW performance. They want to see the tables, the blood, the guts. When you're watching Mexico wrestling, whether it be Lucha Underground or any of the other ones, AAA, they're known for their high paced jumping around, and you're only going to watch it for that because that's what you know.
Right.
So yeah. Overall, I thought it was great. As a person with kids over the age of 18, I'm fine with everything that happened. The cussing, the blunt smoking, and, that's fine with me. Again, because I'm not a parent anymore. I don't have, kids that I have to worry about them. Like back in the early 2000s when DX was doing the chopping thing, I remember my oldest one doing that shit and having to smack him around a little bit, but I don't have to do that anymore, because they're all over 18. Matter of fact, they're all over 21. So
Hey.
I don't
my
have to worry.
9-year-old watched it with me, and I'm all right.
That's because your kids are demons.
Well, when Bobby D's your father, so.
Life's
Anyway,
fun.
so now that we have you on, we're done talking about Raw. Man, what's new with you? You're still on the road doing everything you can, but give us the details. What's going on?
Man, it is, I was training in Cleveland with EC3 for, 6 months. And I was like, all right, at the end of October, everything's going to just cool down and I'll be able to breathe and relax and the schedule's going to lighten up a little bit. And it hasn't lightened up a single bit. I don't know who I was fooling. I was like, it's still between going to OVW every week. This week I fly to Texas, which that's kind of a thing because I was originally supposed to be at SICW on the 10th and then MWC on the 11th. And I had to pull out of both of those bookings. I don't know if you know what is running in Texas, but
James
that
Beard's group.
Well, it's more
now part of the NWA.
Yeah. They're running down in Forney, Texas. So I will be prepped for that. And I did a little thing with them down in Alabama, which we'll leave blank for now. But I'll just say it involves this logo here, which you may have seen on NWA.
One of the mystery men.
No,
maybe. Something.
Not in Tampa.
Oh, okay.
So that was filmed in Tampa. When that happened, but I did do some stuff with the NWA in Alabama, and then I will be in Texas this weekend for Shockwave, and so unfortunately I won't get to whoop Kurt Gannon's ass all over Wood River, and suplex them as many times as I can. But hopefully in the future, that can happen. But that's something that's pretty new and pretty exciting. And then following that, it's right back to Louisville on Thursday and doing OVW, and then straight to Cleveland on Friday to be there Saturday for the Exodus show on the 18th. And
okay, so let me pause you for a second. So you're not training there no more, but you're still going there for their shows.
Oh yeah, because I'm a part of the roster. I'm actually, I don't know if you saw the Facebook post, but I have the highest winning percentage in Exodus Pro Wrestling, so which is 100%. So
nice.
And I can promise you, this State Farm agent is not gonna, be the one to, deduct any percentage from my.
never underestimate your opponent. Anyone can get caught.
Hey, I trained him for 24 weeks, and I promise you, I didn't teach him everything. So.
Well, there's definitely a body difference. I think you could probably.
And he's definitely got some height on me though. Mike is about 6'5", so but I'm confident, if and when that time comes that I deliver a fisherman to him. I mean, I just deadlifted, a 350-pound guy at the last show into a fisherman suplex. I know he don't weigh 350 pounds, and I'm sure I could fold him just fine. So.
Let me backtrack you to this Texas. Is this going to be an every show type of thing with you now, or?
I would say I wouldn't say necessarily it's going to be an every show thing. This is just one of those early opportunities that you get told, if you can be there, make it happen. And I made it happen.
Sweet.
So
is this something that they're paying for your flight to go down there, or you got to cover that?
It's one of those things that, again, what I was told is, if you can be there, make it happen. So I made it happen.
There you go.
So
hey, sometimes you got to do that, to get to that next step.
Exactly. It's one of those things that okay, let's see if is he reliable?
Right. All right. So we got OVW, we got the Exodus. What is their actual name out there?
So NWA Exodus Pro in Cleveland.
NWA Exodus Pro. The Texas OVW. You still going to do some SICW dates, or is this the last time? Okay.
I'm looking. You should see me SICW. What is that? February 1st and 2nd.
Okay.
Is the next SICW dates after the 10th and the 11th.
I'll be honest with you. I was going to bring the whole family down Saturday night to watch you and Kurt go at it, because I thought that was going to be a very interesting match.
Yes. Yeah.
And I hardly go to any other places nowadays, but I was going to show up to that one just for that match.
Yeah, I was excited to have that match because, I don't know if you saw the promo that, they had posted of my reply to Kurt, but Kurt and I have had very similar paths in professional wrestling, especially with the logo that is behind me in that picture and the logo that is on my chest here. Kurt was original CYN. Yep. He was at, NWA, what was that, 74? When EC3, Kurt, Space Cowboy, Stacey Alexander, and then Battleborn Leo Fox attacked Tom Latimer. And then, there's just slight differences now in our current standing where Kurt's not CYN. Now I'm CYN, NWA, Exodus, whatever you want to call it. So I was excited for the 11th to kind of be that point. I believe what I said in the promo is that we've had similar paths, but that the 11th would be the point where I show that we realistically do not have similar futures. I was really excited to have that match. So.
Yeah, it's a shame, but it's a step up. Going out to Texas.
It is a opportunity that I could not pass up. So And I did, talk to Herb Simmons and let him know about the 10th, let him know I wouldn't be at tapings on the 11th. Talked to the owner of MWC, and everyone was very supportive. None of them was like, oh man, they were very understanding. So it was, I basically just told MWC, would still like to do business in the future. So we don't know what that looks like. And then obviously SICW's, still my home in St. Louis. So.
Right. And they gotta expect that. Promoters gotta expect that when you're a rising star or when you're, someone like Matt Cardona. And I like to use him as an example for a lot of things. But he was doing the independents, and then he got the call from Edge when he switched over to AEW.
Yep.
Because I was literally there in Indiana to watch him. He was supposed to wrestle Ultimo Dragon, and he had to bail on that match so he can go to AEW and wrestle Edge. And he said it was a no-brainer. He could have stayed in Indiana and wrestled for the 200, 300 people, or go to a stadium and wrestle in front of thousands and be on TV. Every promoter's got to know that the possibilities there. We're independent wrestlers, so there's no contract per se for the indies, unless I mean, I've never signed no contract. I don't think
unless
I've ever ran into someone who signed a contract unless you're in the AEW or Ring of Honor or WWE. So I mean, it's definitely going to make a name for yourself. You're going to get seen in a whole other area, so that's great. Now, James Beard, we had him on, and he was talking to us about the Texas style. It's hard hitting. Is that something that you're going to have to change your style up?
Well, actually, I was just talking to Noah, who's one of the Exodus owners. We got one of our buddies, Brandon Lee, who trained with us from the UK. He's getting ready to do a tour in Japan. And I was like, dude, man, I would love to go do business in Japan.
Yeah.
I think I'm not comparing TSW to like Japanese style, but you want to talk about hard hitting.
Oh, yeah.
More hard hitting than me putting you in a waist lock and not letting go and suplexing you 10 times.
Well, plus, and any American wrestler will tell you that when you go to Japan, a lot of people look at you like, oh, you're American, and they, the fans look at you differently. They expect more out of you, but the Japanese wrestlers, they want to prove that they're better than you. So that's kind of how that style got formed, because Bruiser Brody going over there and being this giant monster. Well, they had to prove that they're better than him, and so they had to fight harder than him, and that's kind of where that whole style, came from.
Yeah, I definitely look at like, they just brought in 2 territories from Texas, TSW and then Dog Pound. And, I know all of us, we obviously know Niles Planque and Miranda Gordy, they go down to TSW a lot. And I was actually already kind of like eyeballing TSW before it became a territory, because I would really like to get down to Texas. And then when they became a territory, I immediately told EC3, like, hey, like, I'm already being sent to other territories, which one of the territories I'm debuting for is a place that I've been wanting to debut for since I started wrestling, because it's in St. Louis. And
WLW?
Yeah. And, so I'm excited to do that, but I'm like, hey, I also would like to get down to Texas. And, so it's one of those things that I'm going to try to find a way to do business, down in Texas, because I'm not scared of anything hard hitting. That don't scare me away at all. Like, if anything, that's what excites me. I always tell people I'm going to hit you just as hard as you hit me. And, that's what I look for. That's what I want out of a wrestling match, is a hard hitting, intense match.
I was going to bring up WLW just because you brought up Japan. You know, WLW used to have those tryouts for Harley. And I know they kept them going even after Harley passed, that they would bring in Noah and they would bring in the other companies. And, you know, depending on how you did, they invited you to go to Japan. So I don't know if they still do that, but that would be, you know, awesome if you can get involved in the WLW and then get that, hey, come on over.
I'm not sure where that connection lies, you know, after passing, but if that door, let's say it's just not as open, you know, I'll kick it open. Like I'm pretty sure, and you can kind of help me be a testament on this, is like, I feel as if where I'm at currently, everything I've said I've wanted to do, I've done it so far. Like if I've set my mind to something, so if I say I want to go do business in Japan, I'm gonna fucking go to Japan. Like I'm gonna make it happen somehow.
Well, I would tell you just the way you did it on the podcast with Ruby, how you were talking about the guy asking you down in Tennessee if you were able to make it to OVW, and you said, I already have, I already have my paperwork for my license, you know. So I would tell you to go ahead and get your passport ready.
Oh, I've looked into it. It's kind of an in motion type deal already.
Yeah, because I heard it could take up to like 6 months, sometimes a year to get approved. So I would get that thing, definitely started and have that in hand if that situation ever comes up.
Yeah, because I'm trying to get a Riviera jacket. Damn it!
Nate, you might not know about that. There's a restaurant over there, and every wrestler. No, I always hear that they eat for free as well, and that's why a lot of wrestlers would probably go there. But they also, and I heard it's not the first time you go there though. At least, unless you're famous.
You have to be like invited by it. You have to be brought by a sponsor.
Yeah, but you go there, you eat, and they give you a jacket. Now, all the legends, have jackets. You know, Brody had a jacket. The Funks had jackets, and it was a proud thing to be given this jacket over there. That would be great. You know,
go
over there,
trade out the tracksuit and just start wearing a Riviera jacket every show.
Right. So that's cool. Are you ever, on OVW? Have you been on their TV production yet, or their TV show?
I wrestle weekly there.
On their show?
Yeah.
Okay, because I thought it was just dark matches still.
No, sir. I've been wrestling weekly for OVW TV for 3 or 4 months.
I'm gonna have to backtrack and start watching those matches now.
Some Overdrive. I'll send you some links to some of the matches. That way, I'll send you the link to the ones worth watching.
Well, Leo Fox is down there too, right? He's down there wrestling.
Yes. Yeah. Instead of Battleborn, it's the War Criminal. He's a maniac down there.
Yeah, so the one episode that I did catch, I watched the whole show. I don't think you were on that show, but Leo was, and they kept going back to this interview that they did with him, and talking about him going through the war and coming back, but it was like throughout the whole episode, I was like, man, he is really getting some TV time with this. Like he is going to get a push,
Yeah. So. I mean, he's in with the Revolution, which is Doug Basham's group down there. He's basically, what you would call their heavy, in a sense. And it's definitely a different Leo Fox that you see at OVW versus what you see at Exodus. Like, Exodus, he's the war hero. He's Battleborn Leo Fox, and OVW, he's anybody can get it. No matter who is there, he's gonna put hands on them.
Right. Yeah. Man, that's kind of cool. So does he have a contract through them, or do you
No,
even have a contract through them?
OVW is a per appearance. They're not developmental anymore, so they don't have developmental contracts or anything like that. But they are still very, very tied to the WWE in the sense of like Doug Basham is constantly going down to the PC and being a guest coach. Just in the time I've been with OVW, that's been 4, 5, 6 times that he's done that.
Well, then, and they got ties with other wrestlers. I mean, shoot, Al Snow is a great tie to WWE.
Yeah, I mean, Al Snow is the guy that runs it. So
right. But here lately, if I'm not wrong, Dude Love just debuted down there in OVW.
I was actually there Saturday, and this is a moment that it kind of cracks me up because I've met Mick Foley, Dude Love, I don't know, I'd say a handful of times being at OVW, and not once did he know my name. But Saturday, I'm walking through back by the office where Al's at and where Gorilla's at, and he walks in, and it was actually my first time seeing him because they announced that he wasn't going to be there. So who's there? Dude Love's there. Mick Foley's not there. Dude Love's there.
Right.
So Dude Love walks in the door and he looks at me and he does 2 finger guns, strictly business. And I was like, I just had that moment. I was like, oh, I didn't even say anything to him. He just knew, which is cool because that shows that he watches the product, and it also was kind of a moment of, I've been doing strictly business. I had my character introduction at Exodus Pro in June. And I would say that strictly business is where I've gotten the most traction at in my career thus far, like character wise. And it's just, I think it's probably something because it's more true to who I am, like personally, but also it's so different than what the typical wrestler is that goes out there, if you get what I'm saying. I get moments like that where it's the idea in the mentality of strictly business was kind of born from multiple people helping me, but then I kind of took that and made it my own. And I just feel with what I'm doing right now, if guys like Mick Foley are watching it and remembering who I am, it's fucking working.
Yeah.
If guys like JBL, who was also there, are watching it and know who I am, it's working. Whether it's from OVW product, whether it's from Exodus product, whether it's from NWA product, wherever I'm doing strictly business at, it's working. And that was that moment that I was like, okay, I'm what I'm doing is right. I did a thing with.
We talked about it last week that some wrestlers have to do things that other wrestlers won't, so they get noticed. I think that's what happened when a lot of people start doing all the flippity floppity shit, was to get noticed, but now everyone does it. So now when you actually go in there and actually wrestle, believe it or not, even though it's a wrestling match, when you go in there and actually wrestle, that's what's getting you noticed now. Because you're not doing the flippity floppity stuff that, don't get me wrong, it looks cool. But they were doing that to get noticed, and now that's what everyone does. It's a
saturated product with that.
Right. So now that you're actually going in there and wrestling on a wrestling show, you're getting noticed.
Yeah. And it's it's cool, but the biggest thing, and like you said, you have to do, sometimes wrestlers have to do things that other wrestlers won't. And I've had to do that at OVW. kind of volunteer for a spot that other guys look at and they're like, oh, I don't know if I want to do that. But then I look at it, I'm like, it's weekly TV time, it's weekly promo time. Why the hell am I not going to do this?
Right.
Whether it's something goofy or something that doesn't necessarily fit what I'm typically doing, I can still do it as my own and still be strictly business in this, situation they're putting me in, and still have fun doing it. And then that's what's getting me recognized,
Yes. Bobby, help me with this guy's name. ECW, the guy lost every single match, and then he became a heavyweight champion. Mikey Whipwreck. Never mind. I already thought of it.
Whipwreck.
Yeah. So there was an interview with him, and he was talking about how they brought that idea up to him. Hey, you don't really look like a wrestler, so we'll give you that time, but you're going to lose every single match.
Yeah.
And he was like, perfect. That's going to get me on TV every single week. Even though I'm going to lose, I'm still on their product, still being shown across. Their channel wasn't nationwide, but it's still a very popular channel that they were on, and they were still getting coverage. And it made it even sweeter when he became their champion, because everyone knew
because at
him
that point,
and knew that struggle that he had.
And they wanted to see him win.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
they wanted to see.
Close ties, not that you're on the opposite end where you're winning all the time, so that's great.
At Exodus. At Exodus.
But yeah, so that's awesome. So I posted on the podcast that you were on that this year, hands down, I think is going to be your year. You're going to make it somewhere, because you're more dedicated than anyone that I know, and you're actually going places. A lot of people might be dedicated, but they're only dedicated to their 25-mile, blockage. Where you're going out to all the states, and
travel in the country.
Right.
And
even Matt Cardona just now recently finished working every 50 states. And he was in WWE forever, 15 years, I think it was.
Yeah.
But as an independent, he finally now managed to work every 50 states. But I've always told you from the beginning that that's what you're going to have to break out of. If you want to make it in this business, you got to get on the road. Hands down, I'm proud of you. So,
thank you. That's what I would. One of the things I talked about on Ruby's podcast, and then I would literally like an hour before I did Ruby's podcast, I was on another podcast that was taped, and one of the questions that was asked was like, with my time training at Ace, what is something that you took away from it? And it was like, one, that the basics still work, right? That like, if you have a good body slam, you have a good tie up, you have a good hip toss, you have a good headlock takeover, like you can go anywhere and work anyone and have a good match wherever you're at. And that's something that I feel like I don't do any of the crazy stuff. I don't need to, and that's one of the things that I feel like I really hope current ACE students realize is just from what the places I've went, like when I go to Atlanta, is a very indie show. So when I come in and I wrestle a guy that wants to do all the flippy stuff, and he'll get his time to do it, but then whenever I don't let the crowd see that stuff, it automatically makes me the top heel.
Right.
Automatically. Because I take what they want to see away from them.
Right.
And I just ground their guy and I roll them and I roll them and I ground their guy and I roll them. And it's like the basics. I mean, if you look at social media for Brandon Barretta, it's like I'm posting clips of me doing hard buckles. I'm posting clips of me doing very simple maneuvers that target my opponent's back mostly. And it's nothing that it doesn't need to be anything crazy. A body slam is going to impact your back just as much as, doing I love Roderick Strong, but he used to do a move where it was like up into a vertical suplex and you let them flip out and he lands them with his knees, they land on his knees. Yeah. Body slams gonna hurt just as bad, right. Or just like the spot that I do that I watched in a Bob Orton match, where I just simply hook, I've got them tied up almost in a triangle, like an arm triangle almost, standing, and then I just drop them to my knee 3 or 4 times and do 3 or 4 backbreakers. That's gonna put just as much damage on their back as that same move that I was just talking about. But it's just like the basics. You don't have to do anything crazy. You can go to these places, work the basics, and if anything, the crowd kind of gets a breather from seeing all the flippy stuff 15 matches in a row, and they enjoy your stuff even more. Or they want to see the flippy stuff and you're not doing the flippy stuff, so then you do your job as the bad guy and don't give them what they want. So it's kind of like I realize that works so well.
And, if a lot more people would see that, people would have longer careers than what they do now. They wouldn't have as many breaks because, even the best, like you said, Kenny Omega, he's had a lot of breaks because he gets hurt, because he does a lot of awesome stuff, but it's a lot of the flippy floppity stuff, so I mean, even the best get hurt and shorten their careers. I've been kind of watching more wrestling over the past weekend than I normally do. Normally I don't watch anything unless it's old. But with AEW coming to was it HBO Max?
HBO or whatever.
Yeah, they have it's a series. It's a behind the scenes series of AEW. So I've been watching that because I love the behind the scenes stuff. I love the story. Which if they would just put some of the story out on the camera during the matches, it would be a much better product, I think. Because the behind the scenes, they were talking about what was going on, why they don't get along with this person in the ring, why they are okay with this person because they respect this person. If they would just throw that out into the open, I think that's what they're missing. They do a lot of dream matches, which is great because you never see those 2 pairings. But if they would just bring the story out too, it would get a lot more people hooked into their product. But definitely, I'm going to have to start watching OVW now. Man, now I'm going to be watching wrestling every damn day of the week. Thanks,
you
Brandon.
got Monday Night Raw, NXT on Tuesday, Dynamite on Wednesday. Don't forget NWA on Tuesday on X. Then you got Thursday OVW, Friday Night SmackDown, Saturday Collision AEW, Sunday whatever PLE or whatever they want to call it. If they've got it.
Yep. Now NWA Exodus, that's YouTube only, right?
So we stream on the NWA YouTube, yeah, we stream on the official NWA YouTube, which this show Begin Again should also be live streaming on the YouTube on January 18th, to my knowledge.
Because that's where I've caught a lot of your matches. I think was either you posted it and I watched it off your Facebook, or I've caught some of them on the NWA. Which the last time I talked to you, text message wise, we were talking about the match that I just watched about, and I think that was the 350-pound guy that I couldn't believe that you picked up. And then again, if the ref was in a better position, you would have had to work a little harder that night.
Yeah. so in that moment, because I was actually, we on that show, we had Trevor Murdoch, Aaron Stevens, obviously EC3, and then also the head ref of the NWA was there. And I'll give you a little bit of a behind the scenes on it. So I get done with that match, and I get to the back, and the head ref of the NWA is giving that guy a pretty stern talking to. Not the ref, but my opponent.
Yeah.
And, he's explaining things of the business, and what needed to be done and what should have been done differently on his part, right?
Right.
And the referee, I believe his name's James Keenan, I believe, looks at me and goes, "What would you have done if that referee would have saw that?" And I just looked at him and I said, "I would have choked his ass out." That's just plain and simple. I'm not doing it again.
Yeah,
I would have put you in a sleeper directly, like immediately, because I had already thought through that process. Because when I'm in that pinning position, I can see this ain't right. I already knew what was going on, but I was that committed that I was in my head. I'm going, I already know what I'm doing next if this does not go through the way it's supposed to. And I just said I would have choked his ass out. Like, now, I would have done business, but it would have been, that was my next move.
Yeah.
But I also, in that moment, was like, I realized that this move is not going the way I was anticipating it to go. So I'm popping my hips, and your big ass is going over whether you like it or not. And I'm sure Bobby can talk about that. In wrestling, amateur wrestling, it's regardless of what you do. If I get a waist lock on you and I pop my hips, you have no option. Tuck your chin. Right. That's all you can do. That's all you can do.
Well, that's awesome. So, what are your next dates? Is that Texas going to be streamed or anything? Or are we going to be able to?
So, everything NWA does is taped right now. So, for instance, like when I was in Alabama with them back on, I think it was the 10th of December, but that probably won't air until after January, after the end of January. So because they basically tape all their shows, and that's what their weekly power tapings are. So it's very like similar to what SICW does, where we rep the hot show and then we rep the tapings.
Do you have any behind the scenes on what the NWA is planning, or are they? Because I know Billy has that. He too has a TV show,
his own show,
behind the scene, and that just moved to Peacock. So if you guys, I thoroughly enjoyed that too. So if you guys out there ever want to watch that, that's now streaming on Peacock, and I'm hoping for a season 2.
Carney Land Corgan, it was definitely a good watch.
Is there any word down the pike if they're gonna get? Because he talked about, there's 2 or 3 different TV channels that I might be able to hook onto and get product out there. Is anything you heard down the pipeline? Is he going to be able to?
Nothing that I've been directly told or necessarily privy to, but I will say when I was in Alabama, the pre-show meeting was very, very direct of don't do this, don't do that, none of this, none of that. And all they said, they basically just said, yeah, right. They basically just we cannot mess this up. They never said what this is, but I would assume with the things that they were talking about, I was like, I would anticipate something in the future, in the near future, because, they also quickly switched from the CW app to just streaming on X. which I was not necessarily like super into until I actually talked to someone that was able to give me the details on it and realized, oh, this is actually a very good move for them in the sense of monetization. Because even with YouTube, it sucks. Like monetization on YouTube is terrible unless you're like crazy high up and all that stuff.
Well, I can see what they're doing in the long run is to get a back catalog, because most of the streaming services nowadays, they want that back catalog, so they have more stuff that they can throw on there. Kind of like both examples, WWE switching over to Netflix. They're going to give them some of the back catalog too.
Well, I mean, they
HBO
got
Max
on there.
AEW has got their back catalog on there already. So, that's one of the things those entertaining, the live stream services, they want stuff that they can show. So, that's great that he's going to have like a back catalog from different territories. I just hope he moves to a streaming service soon and not X. I mean, that might be a great platform for him now, but I don't foresee everyone getting on X to watch his product all the time.
Yeah. They've been doing pretty decent since they've done the switch viewership wise. It's from what I've realized, it seems like it's probably a little bit more than what they were doing on the CW app. Because more people have X than people have in the CW app.
Right.
But I do think like if it was some sort of streaming service, whether it was like a Peacock or, a Hulu or something like that, like that would be very beneficial. Or even if they just were able to snag a network deal, like it doesn't have to be some high level network, just any network deal is going to give you a platform to build off of. So,
maybe he's waiting for everything, because, we always talk about Netflix getting Raw, but Peacock is still going to get the pay-per-views this year.
Yeah.
So, and that's one thing I don't think we pointed out on the podcast is that WWE and Peacock are still tied to each other, and all their pay-per-views are going to be streamed there. It's not going to be streamed on Netflix.
Right.
So
the only thing on Netflix in the United States is Monday Night Raw. Now, everywhere else outside the United States, everything's on Netflix.
Right. And I'm sure that's probably tied to the Peacock situation, because Peacock is probably not worldwide. So when they go to another country, Netflix can take over that because they're worldwide. But hopefully maybe Peacock will be a nice landing spot for the NWA. Once WWE's product moves out totally, maybe they're sliding, this Carneyland show in just to get the feet wet. And, hopefully.
Yeah, I don't know details or specifics of who or what's been really talked about, other than it was don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, none of that. And it was very clear,
Right.
It
don't
seemed like
screw this up for everyone.
Yeah. It was. Yeah. I will say.
It's weird. They locked eyes with Brandon though, and did not look away when they talked.
Right. Yeah. They're like, hey, none of this stuff, dude. But no, it was funny. It was kind of we're talking through the stuff that I was a part of in Alabama with EC3, and the match that he wrestled, he was like, man, it'd be crazy if I was the guy to ruin it for everybody by getting color. Because he wanted to so bad. He was like, this match called for it. This match deserves it. And he was like, but no, we can't. He goes, what did I do? Fire me? He was like, I'm EC3. I am their guy. He was just joking around. But yeah, I'm excited for that stuff to air though. I'm not like in any crazy major role or nothing like that, but it's enough that I'm like, yeah, dude, it's cool to be a part of something like that. And it was an absolute blast, especially coming from like, my mentality of like, I always February's 3 years, wrestling matches. Like, I am green as green gets still.
Yes.
Like, anytime I walk into a locker room, I'm still easily the least experienced guy in the locker room. So to be able to do something like that, it's just like, and also the thing about the NWA that was such a cool feeling was I didn't realize how many of them guys like on the roster that like know who I am just from wrestling Exodus, and they just treat you like you're a part of the locker room. Like they just treat you like you're already. That was one of the biggest things I told EC3, and then I told one of the owners of Exodus, Noah. I was like, dude, they made me just feel like I was supposed to be there, like that I was just one of their boys. Whether it was Silas Mason or Mims or Carson Drake, which I mean, I know him from Exodus, but like Alexander Lev, like any of these guys that I was just like around, or even guys that I had not met before, that were just there and like were super nice to me and basically with open arms. I was like, dude, I already feel like just give me the contract at this point. Like, I feel like I'm already in. Like, geez.
Nice.
But it was such a cool feeling, and it was a really good experience to do that. So I'm looking forward to this weekend, to be able to do it, because I'm also, it being in Texas, I'm getting to go see some family
Nice.
that I haven't seen in a while. The family I'm actually staying with down there, the last time I saw them was when Joey and I won the tag titles.
Okay.
They flew from Texas to watch that match.
That's
All right.
So
that's awesome.
I'm getting to go down and visit with them. And then I also get to be like, hey guys, I sold tickets to your NWA show. I got people coming. Like,
That's awesome, man. All right. So just to wrap up, don't want to take too much of your time. Texas is this weekend?
Yes.
No, and that probably won't be shown for a while. And then I guess you got OVW first before Texas, right?
No, so because I'm flying out like early this weekend, so I got to be there Saturday. So I'm gonna try to get down there. Basically, when I talked to the guys down at OVW, I was like, hey, I got to be at the airport at like 6 a.m, at St. Louis. So I was like, I normally don't get home till 2 a.m. from Louisville. And they were like, yeah, don't worry about it. Like, they were like, go do that. So I'm gonna fly down early Friday morning, and I was like, yeah, I just don't feel like getting home at 2 a.m. from OVW this week, and having to be at the airport at 6 or whatever time it is.
May as well just go straight
then
there.
after that, he said, what?
May as well just go straight there at that point.
Right. But yeah, and then the week after, I'll have OVW on the 16th, and then I'll be in Cleveland the 17th, and then we have NWA Exodus Pro Begin Again right there on the screen on the 18th, and then I'll be back in St. Louis the 19th.
Oh,
and then
okay.
Be back in St. Louis on the 19th, not for a show, just be back in town, and then OVW the week after that, OVW the week after that, and then SICW February 1st. So I think it's the 1st, right? It's got to be the 1st.
All right, so I'll have a question for you. I'll shoot you a text after this. I have an idea, and I just want to. I'll shoot you a text later on tonight.
Yeah.
But yeah, so awesome. Appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely want to keep having you on every now and then, just to see what the life of the rookie wrestler is, and until you get that that big contract where we have to say goodbye and be like, we knew that guy.
I just want to watch the little seedling keep growing into a tree.
Into a tree. Right. Yeah.
And
it's January, fun, but February it's gonna be real hot and heavy. I'm debuting for WLW. I'll be back down at Mid States. I'm trying to think what else. Obviously, OVW dates, SICW dates, Ohio dates, not necessarily Exodus, but just other Ohio dates. And then it's that I looked at February and I'm like, dude, I thought I was taking like the first couple months like a little light. And then I looked at February and I was like, who booked me for these? And I'm like, oh wait, I accepted these dates.
That's awesome.
But
hey,
yeah, so
when you're in demand, you're traveling. It just comes down to that. That means you're doing something right.
Yeah,
so,
I bought that Buick with 64,000 miles on it, and that thing it's right under 120,000 right now. Bought it in May. I bought it in May. Oh my gosh. Oil changes every 2 weeks. It's ridiculous.
My goodness. That's awesome. I mean, that's just awesome. So, all right, Brandon, we'll let you hop off. Thank you for coming on. We'll definitely have you on all the way up until you get that big contract.
I appreciate it. I'm always open to be on. You just let me know when and where. And I don't know if you saw my challenge to Rick Ruby, but I told him, I said, if you get fans, I just need to see 2 comments from his fans that they want to see Ruby do a moonsault. And, that would pay out of pocket to take him to a Sky Zone and make him do a moonsault.
Sky Zone.
I thought of one today, right, for your podcast.
Uh-oh.
More serious. Okay. There's a person on this screen and Jim, it's not you.
Good.
And Nate, it's not you. But there's a person on this screen that I'm sure fans of SICW would love to see Brandon Barretta wrestle. And I want to say before 2025 is over, make it happen, Herb. I want in a heartbeat versus Bobby D on a SICW show before the end of 2025. That's all I want. That's it. That's all. That's my challenge. I'm sure Bobby said he'd do it in a heartbeat. Make it happen. I just want to do it. 2025 is the year that I told Herb, I said, I'm going to be wrestling guys that I really want to wrestle.
Oh, man. I don't know how to take that. One, he doesn't want to wrestle.
He doesn't want to wrestle me.
Jim, I know I can't win. Bobby, I can wrestle. We can have a very competitive match, and I might have a chance. But Jim,
I thought you wanted to see me do a moonsault the way you were introing that in with Ruby.
He wants to go to Sky Zone too.
Can you imagine
Big Texan jumping around at Sky Zone together?
Dude, just think of all the merch you would sell there. Those kids would love those light up glasses.
No, mine would be done in the ring. If I'm going to do a moonsault again, it would be done in the ring. I would hate to be the person. That person would have to roll the fuck away before I win. But
move.
Be lights out. But all right, so we'll try to make that happen. Bobby D versus Brandon Barretta.
2025, it's got to happen.
2025 is over.
Yes.
I'm game.
It's got to. It's got to happen. Ain't no reason for it not to.
That's true. You're both wrestlers. You might as well just, Little Brock versus Bobby D. That was my 15 minutes worth of fame from the other night.
Did you like that? Did you like that? You heard me. I said, there's Jim's 15 seconds of fame.
Yeah, motherfucker. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I heard that.
I love it.
All right, Brandon. We're going to stay on a little bit longer, but we're going to let you go. But definitely, anytime you want to, just give me a buzz and we'll put you on, all right?
Awesome. I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Not a problem, man. Thank you. It's always,
have a good one.
Always great to have you on.
Yes, sir.
All right, so you have a good night. All right, so that's the update of Brandon Barretta. It's kind of sad that we couldn't get him on the SICW show for Friday night. But I guess we'll just have to leave it up to Bobby D to make the fans get wild. So
No,
Bobby D,
that's
Joe
Curtis's
Helms.
thing.
Bobby D and Joe Helms will go against Kowalski, the classic champion, and Glenn Williams, the Central States champion. So this should be a great match. It's the headliner. Start us off January of 2025. So how's that feel? You're going to be the main event.
Feels like it's some payback time. I got beef with both of these guys, so I'm excited to start off my year just whooping the tail off both. And to have a silverback in my corner, that doesn't hurt either.
That sounds awesome. I can't wait. Hopefully we have the show. Nate brought to my attention that we're having bad weather Thursday into Friday.
We have more coming in.
Yeah, we got more coming in. And Herb already posted.
I know you don't have young kids anymore, but they've canceled the 118, like the grade schools and the high school already for tomorrow.
Really?
Yeah.
That is crazy. I would have thought tomorrow would have been fine and then cancel it the rest of the week.
So Herb is saying they're going to monitor the weather into Thursday evening. But as of today so far, being Tuesday evening at 10 p.m., show's still on. When this airs, don't know.
Right. So normally we set up on Thursday nights, so I will definitely be keeping an eye out for that because I hate to set up the ring and we not use it. But then again, I've never seen an SICW show canceled.
First only one in 52 years.
Well, in a pandemic, mess a lot of things up.
Oh, but yeah, I don't count the pandemic. That shut down the world. So
when this comes out Thursday, I'm sure Nathan can put a pinned comment if the show is canceled as well.
Yep.
Because we post this pretty early in the morning, about 8:30, 9 o'clock. So it might be too early for it, but we might be able to get you on Instagram and Facebook because Nathan posts on that. I post on Facebook in our group. So we'll try to keep you updated on our side.
But he can post the video and add a pin later too.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to keep checking on it because I do know we're looking at single-digit weather for that evening on Friday, and that's really cold in that building.
Well, tomorrow night it's supposed to be 0 at overnight, Wednesday night going into Thursday. They already rated it a 0 on the degrees, and then Thursday night's supposed to start snowing again up until Friday, and they really hadn't cut it off on what time they think the snow is going to stop. So it'll be interesting, but we'll definitely try to keep everyone posted.
Well, I wouldn't even let the guys out of my driveway.
Either way, it's a good card planned. I wasn't privy to the rest of the show, but just that main event will definitely draw in some fans. I wanted to have a little bit of time because last week we talked about Lucha Libre wrestlers that I have, and I went down to the almighty basement and pulled them up. So I have 3 of them that are still mint in the package. This particular one, I've never seen wrestle, and that's Liz Mark. I don't know, Bobby, if that name rings a bell or not, but that's one of them.
He sounds familiar, but I don't recognize him really.
Everyone should know this guy. This is Ultimo Dragon. Still mint on card. And these I bought also when I was a kid and just never opened them. One, I didn't know who they were, but I knew they were wrestlers.
You didn't know Ultimo Dragon?
Oh, back when I was a kid, I probably didn't.
You're a WWF guy. That's right. He was over in WCW.
Right. I mean, I did know him when he was known as the Belt Collector. And I definitely remember the pictures of him with shoot, he probably had all 7 or 8 belts at one time. So that was pretty cool. And then this was the one that we were talking about, Vampiro. Now, on this one, he's actually called Vampiro Cantonese. Hopefully I pronounced that right. But that's because back in the day when he first started wrestling in Mexico, they called him the Canadian Vampire. Now, of course, it's kind of reversed on the package there. But I'm pretty sure, and people, leave me in the comments, I'm pretty sure this is his first action figure. And they're not, articulated or anything like that. They're not really posable except for the stand, the position that they're in right now. But
yeah, but I like the way they did his makeup on there, though. His face paint.
Yeah. Well, most of them,
Could be a Halloween figure too.
Especially in the WCW era, his face paint was all white because he was more of a Misfits type of, the band, the Misfits. He was more into that kind of atmosphere, and they would always paint their faces and stuff. And so his was normally all white. But I think I have one more somewhere because I want to say I had Atlantis as well, which he's another masked wrestler from Mexico. But, I've always kept these tucked away. I never got them out. And then I realized, oh, shoot, I got an Ultimo Dragon and I got a Vampiro. And so then I really made sure I kept them tucked away just because I didn't want to fuck up their packaging. Now, last week, I talked about the LJNs that I got in. And literally Thursday when this podcast came out, I had another one come in. And it's our friend Jimmy Hart. And what was cool about it is the day it came in was also his birthday. So it's just like coincidence. I didn't know it was his birthday, but everyone started posting happy birthday, Jimmy Hart. I was like, that neat coincidence. I just got him, that I actually got him Wednesday night, and then Thursday was his birthday. So that was pretty cool. And you know how I always tell you there's variants? He has a variant. And it's just a small variant. All these hearts on his megaphone, the other version doesn't have it. Like I said, there's just small little things that, I guess if they were made in one factory, they had the hearts. If they were made in a different factory, they just kept the paint job simple where it was all red. But this is the one that people strive to get because of the extra little details on things. But so this was pretty cool that I picked up.
Speaking of variants, just through a quick Google here, the Vampiro one that you have is a alternate card on the back for the packaging. It came out in '92. There's another one with the same figure where he just basically got black stripes coming down. That's the normal one, and the one you have is the variant or alternate. They labeled it on here.
All right. Well, that's even better. So back in '92, so unless you find a person on eBay that saved these, it's going to be very rare to get any of these back in the packagings, which is pretty cool. Always been a fan of all things wrestling, so I try to pick up everything that I've found back in the day. I almost dragged, and next week I'll drag it up here. There's one thing that I don't know why they ever combined them, but back in the day, they have, those hockey tables where they have the little figures. It's kind of like a foosball table, but done with hockey. So you got the long sticks that you shimmy back and forth. WWF actually had a hockey table, and the wrestlers are the hockey people. So you got goalies. One goalie could be Earthquake, the other other guys could be. I know $1 Million Man, Jake the Snake, Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior are all on this hockey table that I got. And they made 2 versions because I spoke to a guy who had another version, and he said, "Oh, no, mine doesn't look like that." So I know they made 2 versions of that. And what's weird is the figures on this hockey table go for great money. But when the figures and the hockey table is all complete, it goes for extra, fucking very expensive amount of money. And if you still have the stickers, mine unfortunately has been in the basement so long. I've seen it today, and most of the stickers are peeling off, just because I didn't have the box when I bought this thing. So I just kept it out like that. And I guess, the weather being in the basement would, peeled them all off. But so I wanted to bring out the luchadors, and I thought it was kind of cool that we were talking about Lucha Libre, and we were talking about Jimmy Hart tonight. So that even makes it even better. The only other thing I did pick up was a Kevin Von Erich. I wouldn't say it's a baseball card because literally it's a very small card compared to my finger. It's like half the size of a baseball card. But it's got Kevin Von Erich. And if you can read the title also, it says Kevin Von Erich and where's Eric Flair. Like
Eric Flair?
Eric Flair. Now that's clearly Ric Flair in the picture, but they called him Eric Flair. So I don't know what happened there, but yeah, Kevin Von Erich versus Eric Flair.
You got to get him to sign that in May, though.
Yeah, so it's kind of crazy. But yeah, that's pretty much
your
wraps it
bubble
up.
hockey table alone sells for about $100 to $200 without the figures.
Yeah, and it's crazy. It's something that it was a rarity. I've never seen it before, and I had to pick it up. I took, and Nathan, I didn't tell you this. I took a clip of just us talking about what wrestling figures from last week's episode, and threw that on YouTube and Facebook and everything else. So it's just that clip, and it has over like 500 and some odd hits. So I did on my own. I posted another video, and I'll show it here. Now, Bobby, shit, I just dropped a Bruiser Brody card.
Shame on you, disrespect.
I'll just show that off. That's a very young Bruiser Brody, but that was one of his wrestling all-stars. Man, every single card in this line, crazy.
That's short hair for him.
But Bobby, on it wasn't his wedding night, but it was on his trip to Niagara Falls, brought me this wrestler back. Now this is Rocky 3. This is Thunder Lips. Yeah, so I've had this still in the package because it sits next to, and let me pull this out of this plastic sleeve. It sits next to the original Thunder Lips. Now this is from the movie when it first came out. And, I've talked about how I met Hulk Hogan on multiple occasions. Now, this was back before they did paint pens, but it's signed by Hulk Hogan, but it's in, a black marker or ballpoint, not a ballpoint pen, but Sharpie. That's what I was trying to think of. So his autograph is starting to fade a little bit, but I showed this off because I want us to be known for everything wrestling. And I think sometimes when they see the podcast, like we talked about before, people have short attention spans. But a lot of wrestling fans and wrestlers themselves are, collecting wrestling figures or pretty much any kind of 80s toy line or 90s toy line.
So I thought you were saying that we have short attention spans. It's like, yep, this guy.
No, I mean, that's why we try to keep this podcast down to an hour, which I know we've already gone over an hour here because we had half an hour before Brandon even popped on.
Well, we had the Brandon Barretta, so it can go as long as ever.
That's true, but
and nobody thanked him for the house. I mean, come on.
Well, that's because Thursday we'll have to see how many views this gets, and then we'll have to thank him.
We don't want to thank him for standing us up Friday.
Yeah. But anyway, so that I just wanted to point those out. Those are two, even the newest one, and like I said, still this is the newest version I think of Thunderlips. But Bobby, I'm gonna put you on the spot. How long you been married now?
15 years.
Way too long. See, way too long. So this is clearly old on its own.
156 years.
But to have this one still in the package is much cooler and rarer and stuff. But they stand right next to each other because clearly, if this old one had this cape and the hat of Thunderlips, it'll make the old one so much better.
You have to keep that one with the autograph out of the light, though.
Yeah, so this one is normally in the cabinet that doesn't have any light, and it's tucked in the back because normally I figure if they walk into my house and want to steal my shit, this will be in the back, so they'll have to dig for this one. But so definitely cool items that I picked up with the Jimmy Hart and the Kevin Von Erich and the Eric Flair picture. Just getting things lined up, trying to complete this collection. I think really I was talking to one of our friends and friends of the podcast, Frank Murphy, and he was trying to get me to buy this other collection, and I said, well, I have all those guys in that collection. It was like this guy on Facebook was trying to sell like 13 of them for like $200 some odd, which is a great deal because 13 of the LJNs for $200 some odd, awesome deal. But I had everyone that he was selling. It's just that the ones that I'm getting down to are what they call the Black Series, and the Black Series, even out of the package and fucked up looking, will still set you back $100 to $150. And I'm talking like some people were eating the hands and no paint left on the figure is still going for that much. So I might have to switch and go back to Hasbro's for a little while, buying those up because that's definitely a cheaper line and they're more available until I can find some of these rare boys for the LJNs. But definitely a cool collection. Talking about Monday Night Raw, so hopefully next week's Monday Night Raw will try to be the same. Hopefully it's not going downhill after that, because they pulled out the stops, having the Undertaker, The Rock, and Cena come out. I guess this will be the first week I'll pay attention to AEW because they'll be on HBO Max this weekend. At some point, because I'm probably still going to go to that show on Saturday, even though the Brandon Barretta is not going to be there now. But I'll still go to there, and hopefully we wrestle on Friday. I'll see the wrestling show on Saturday, and then we got TV tapings on Sunday. But good weekend of wrestling.
Nope, TV tapings are Saturday.
Oh, TV taping for Saturday, yeah.
I was going to ask you, when are you going to go to the TV taping and then get over to Wood River?
Yeah. Well, because the TV taping should end about 4-ish, and that'll give us about 3 hours or so to make it to Wood River. Plenty of time. But yeah. So I think that's it. Because Bobby, you didn't get nothing new, right?
Nope. Not till next month.
Okay, so the box we opened up was for the month of January?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
Because
All
it's
right.
usually billed out a couple days before the end of the month, so it gets here like on the first or second day.
Perfect. We'll definitely do. But, well, we'll see. I didn't check their numbers before the podcast, but I think the last time I seen them, we're at 600. And was it 29? Are we still right around there, or did we increase?
I don't know. I've been in too much pain to do anything, so I haven't been in the, this is the first time in the office in a few days.
Okay. I mean, that whole month of December, November, December was just a hotbed for us, and I appreciate you guys because definitely we just jumped up in subscribers. Like I said, I think it was 629 the last time I looked, and our goal for the year was 500, and we steamed past 500 and just shot up, and I was like, man, that's awesome.
We're at 629 subscribers.
Yeah, so appreciate that. So our next goal is definitely 1,000. We're still gonna do more content for you because we still haven't figured out the whole level system on what we're gonna do for our like Patreon type of stuff. But we'll as soon as we know what we're doing.
The logistics is gonna be difficult with what everybody's doing.
Right.
We'll get it done. It's just a little difficult. So
as soon as
hopefully
we get that
people like
streamlined,
it.
we'll get that rolling, and you guys, of course, will be the first ones we tell. So I guess from everyone from the Squared Ring podcast, we appreciate you. Please share our content if you like it. Share it if you don't. Either way, share our stuff, and we'll see you next week. All right, you guys stick on for a second, but have a good night.